Maybe the silence is deepening your listening ear to his whisper rather than the world's noise. Reflect on this. What hidden strength, what unseen resilience, what deeper root system might God be building in you right now, in this season of apparent stillness above the surface? What if the real miracle isn't breaking through yet, but the unbreakable foundation being laid beneath the surface, preparing you for the storms and the growth to come? Trust the unseen roots. They are his promise at work. You know what it feels like to watch the years tick by, each season a gentle turning of the page, but the chapter you're waiting for still hasn't started. The prayer you prayed felt so vibrant, so full of hope, like a seed dropped into fertile ground. But now you stand over the soil, and all you see is dirt. Time stretches, doubt creeps in like a slow fog, whispering questions you try hard to ignore. Was it real? Did I hear right? Is it even possible anymore? You feel the ache of possibility fading with every passing sun. The fear that maybe, just maybe, the promise was only ever a dream. It's a story etched into the ancient earth, walked by a man named Abraham. God called him out of everything familiar, pointed him toward a future unseen, and laid before him a staggering vision. Descendants as numerous as the stars scattered across the desert night sky. A multitude, a nation. But Abraham looked at the stars, then looked at Sarah, his wife, growing old beside him. He looked at his own life, barren of the promised fruit. Years melted into decades. The vision, once so clear, began to feel like a cruel jest whispered on the wind. Imagine the quiet conversations, the strained silences under that vast, indifferent sky. The pressure mounted until, in a moment of very human fear and impatience, they tried to help God out, taking matters into their own hands with Hagar. A decision born of doubt, not direction. And it brought only a harvest of heartache and division that echoed through generations. The promise felt not just impossible, but maybe even foolish in their old age. How could life spring from roots so old, so dry? Yet, nestled within the account of this agonizing weight, before the laughter of Isaac filled their tents, before the promise fully bloomed, the scripture captures a moment of profound truth in Genesis 15, verse 6. Abraham believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. He believed the Lord, not because he saw the stars take human form, not because he held a child in his arms, but in the raw, exposed vulnerability of the endless waiting. His belief, fragile as a mustard seed in that vast wilderness of uncertainty, was enough. It was credited to him as faith, as right standing before God. Your waiting, felt so deeply in the core of your being, is not a test of your strength to grit your teeth and endure the pain, but an invitation to practice believing God while the promise is still unseen. It's in the pause, the quiet, the empty space that faith learns to trust, not the unfolding timeline, but the unwavering heart of the one who gave the promise. He doesn't ask for your sight in the darkness, but for your simple surrender to the God who orchestrates stars and calls forth life from dust. You sit in the quiet ache of unmet expectation. The calendar pages feel heavy, turning slowly, mocking the urgency in your heart. You prayed for a door to open now, a healing to happen today, a word of guidance immediately. The silence you receive feels not like a no, but a confusing, drawn-out pause that stretches your hope thin. Doubt whispers, did he hear? Does he care? Is his timing wrong? This is where the landscape of human time meets the expanse of divine eternity, and the collision can feel like abandonment. But step back, look up. The truth is simple, yet profound, like the ancient mountains against the sky. His perspective is not limited by seconds or years, is bound only by his infinite wisdom. Isaiah 55, 8-9 paints the picture so clearly. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. You are standing at the foot of a single peak, anxious about the immediate climb. God is seeing the entire mountain range, understanding the interconnected trails, the weather patterns shifting seasons away, the ultimate vista from the final summit. You see the immediate need, the pressing problem right in front of your face. God sees the intricate web of cause and effect, the hidden connections between moments, the ripple effect of one decision across generations. Your finite mind, enclosed by the boundaries of time and space, strains to grasp the infinite wisdom that is meticulously orchestrating the details of your story. The waiting, the perceived delay, often isn't God denying you. It's God protecting you from what you think you desperately want and need now, because He knows it might hinder something infinitely better, something unfolding precisely in His perfect sequence. Sometimes, the greatest protection is not getting what you asked for. He doesn't just fix the broken piece you show Him. He is rebuilding the entire engine, ensuring it will run for the long journey ahead. This season of stillness, this period of unfulfilled petitions, is not a sign of His neglect, but often a testament to His grander design. He is not simply answering your prayer. He is weaving your life into a tapestry, far richer and more complex than you can currently perceive. He is asking you to trust not just what He will do, but who He is. A God whose thoughts are as high above yours as the heavens are above the earth. The invitation in this waiting is to release your grip on the timeline and lean into the quiet assurance that the one who holds the cosmos in His hands also holds the delicate threads of your unfolding story, guiding them towards a beauty only He can envision. What if the delay is grace in disguise? What if His timing is not a barrier, but a bridge to something beyond your wildest prayer? You stand at a crossroads you didn't choose. Maybe it feels like a deep, dark pit you were thrown into by circumstances beyond your control. Or maybe it's the suffocating walls of a prison of false accusations and misunderstood intentions. You look around, searching for the path forward, but all you see are dead ends and locked doors. The vibrant dreams that once filled your heart, the promises you thought were just around the corner, now feel impossibly distant, fading like a mirage in the desert heat. Journey with Joseph, the son of favor, the boy with the coat of many colors and eyes full of divine visions. His dreams were bright, clear, prophecies of bowing sheaves and celestial bodies paying homage. He saw a future where he stood in a place of authority and honor. But life rarely follows the straightforward map we imagine. Instead, his brothers, consumed by bitter jealousy, stripped him, threw him into a pit, and sold him into slavery. His journey took a sharp, brutal turn. From the pit, he landed in Potiphar's house, a place of unexpected prominence in a foreign land. You might think, okay, progress. Maybe this is the winding path to the dream. But the story doesn't go straight. A false accusation, a gross injustice, landed him in prison, a dungeon. Each step, from pit to Potiphar's house to prison, seemed to lead him further and further away from the radiant future God had shown him, not closer. The years stretched into an agonizing eternity. He was 17 when those star-filled dreams visited him. He was 30 when he finally stood before Pharaoh. 13 years. Think about that. 13 years of waiting. 13 years of suffering. 13 years of profound injustice. Imagine the questions echoing in the silence of that cell. Did God forget? Were the dreams just youthful fantasies? Is this endless night the end of the story? It can feel like that in your own waiting season, can't it? You pray, you believe, you hold on to a promise, and yet the reality is a painful, unjust, drawn-out struggle. You beg for release, for vindication, for clarity, but the keys to your circumstances remain firmly in another hand. The irony is stark. Sometimes the path to promotion runs directly through the dungeon. The very chains meant to hold you captive can become the unexpected training ground for your future freedom. What was God doing during those 13 years? While Joseph sat in the shadows, unseen and unheard by the world, God was actively at work. He wasn't absent. He was refining. He was teaching Joseph the intricacies of leadership from the ground up, the humility found in serving others even in chains, the profound wisdom needed to interpret visions and manage resources, and the absolute dependence on a God who seemed hidden, but was always orchestrating. The prison wasn't a pause, it was a preparation. The injustice wasn't a punishment, it was positioning. God was meticulously placing Joseph exactly where he needed to be in Egypt, building the relationships, imparting the skills, and shaping the character required to ultimately save his family and an entire region from devastating famine. Your waiting period, no matter how painful, how lonely, or how deeply unfair it feels, is never, ever wasted in God's perfect economy. He is using every quiet moment, every tear shed in solitude, every frustrating setback to shape you, to refine you, and to position you precisely for His ultimate purpose, a purpose often far grander than the dream you initially held. What looks like abandonment to you is often just God's hand, slowly and carefully, molding you into the leader, the comforter, the deliverer He needs you to be. Trust that even in the deepest pit or the darkest prison, He is working all things together for good for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. He is writing your story, and this season, however challenging, is a vital chapter, preparing you for the pages yet to turn. The days bleed into each other, a monotonous gray canvas marked only by the quiet ache in your soul. You watch the calendar pages turn, praying for change, for breakthrough, for the promised land you were sure you'd be in by now. Instead, you find yourself still wandering the wilderness, the manna still appearing daily, but the milk and honey nowhere in sight. You wonder if this season of suffering, this stretch of agonizing delay, is just wasted time, pointless, a cruel joke played on a faithful heart. You sit with the question like a heavy stone in your gut. Is there any purpose in this pain? But the divine narrative rarely aligns with human logic. What looks like stagnation from your vantage point is often intense spiritual formation from his. Think of Joseph, torn from his family, sold into slavery, unjustly imprisoned. By all earthly measures, his dreams were dead, his life derailed. Yet the Bible doesn't just call that period waiting. It was his apprenticeship, his executive training program. In the suffocating confines of a foreign land and a dingy prison cell, he wasn't just enduring. He was learning administration under Potiphar, navigating complex human relationships with fellow prisoners and guards, developing resilience forged in isolation, and mastering patience in the face of profound injustice. These were the very skills he would desperately need when suddenly catapulted into the role of Pharaoh's right-hand man, second only to the ruler of the most powerful empire on earth. His lost years were God's graduate school, preparing him for the weight of the blessing that was coming. This ancient truth echoes through the New Testament. James, the brother of Jesus, offers a paradox that feels almost impossible in the moment of trial. He tells us in James 1:2-4 to consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Pure joy? In the face of trials? It seems absurd, doesn't it? Yet, this strange invitation is not to celebrate the pain itself, but to celebrate what the pain produces. Like a refiner's fire stripping away impurities from gold, your difficulties are not meant to destroy you, but to purify you, strengthening the core of your faith. That anxiety that keeps you awake at night, that rejection that wounded you so deeply, that loss that feels insurmountable, the endless waiting that tests your patience, it's not purposeless punishment. This crucible is producing perseverance you didn't know you had, tempering your soul like steel, making you mature and complete. You are not just enduring, you are evolving. The spiritual muscle being built in this quiet, painful season is preparing you for the weight of the blessing, the responsibility, the calling God intends to give you. The deepest roots grow in the stormiest weather. He is not wasting your pain. He is hallowing it, weaving it into the tapestry of your transformation, preparing you for a harvest you can't yet see. Your wilderness is not a wasteland. It is a workshop. Your delay is not denial. It is development. Could you trust just for today that even this ache has a holy assignment? You feel the chill settling in your bones, the echoes of unanswered prayers bouncing off the stone walls of your present. Maybe it's a cave of waiting for a job, for healing, for a relationship to mend. Maybe it's a cave of hiding from shame, from judgment, from the relentless pursuit of your own anxieties. You feel unseen, sidelined, forgotten in the darkness, far from the place you believed you were meant to be. Imagine David, as a young man, anointed king. Samuel pours the oil over his head. The Spirit of God rushes upon him. He steps out, faces a giant no one else dared challenge, and wins a victory that makes him a national hero. Surely, the throne is just steps away. The promise feels imminent, tangible. Then, the script flips. Years melt away not on a throne, but in the wilderness. Running, hiding, living as an outlaw, pursued relentlessly by a king consumed by jealousy. He wasn't holding court. He was crouched in caves like En-Gedi, his life constantly under threat. Fear was his close companion, uncertainty, his daily bread. Yet this wasn't merely survival, it was formation. These were not wasted years. They were sacred seasons. It was in the grit of the wilderness, in the isolation of the cave, that the shepherd boy became the king God intended him to be. Many of the Psalms, these raw, gut-wrenching, yet ultimately hopeful conversations with God, were born in this wilderness crucible. He expressed his deepest fears, his profound laments, his unwavering trust, his desperate worship, all from the dust and the darkness. His character was forged not in the palace, but in the wilderness. He learned absolute dependence on God because there was nowhere else to turn. He learned to lead fiercely loyal but often rough men. And he learned mercy when he had the chance to end Saul's life, not once, but twice, and chose compassion instead. Sometimes, the greatest power is found in restraint, not force. Your wilderness season, this time of hiding, waiting, or running from perceived threats, is not an interruption to God's plan. It is a sacred, essential part of it. This is the space where God is building the character required for the calling He has placed on your life. You might feel weak in this season, but perhaps His strength is most perfectly revealed in your weakness. You might feel overlooked, but God's gaze is fixed firmly upon you in the silence. Don't despise the cave. Understand it. See it not as a prison, but as a workshop. God is chiseling away the parts that cannot stand the weight of His future. He is deepening your dependence, refining your spirit, preparing you in the quiet before the public outpouring. Surrender to the process. Trust that the author of David's story is writing yours with the same intentionality, the same fierce love, the same promise of a throne that comes only after the wilderness. Your time in the hidden places is preparing you for the visible calling. Lean into the refining fire. He is making you ready. The silence stretches, thin and brittle, around you. Another day dawns, looking much like the last one, filled with the same unanswered questions, the same heavy uncertainty. You sit in the quiet, the promised season of change still a distant horizon, and doubt begins to tap insistently at the window of your soul. Did He hear? Does He care? The waiting tests your faith in its truest sense. It asks the raw, vulnerable questions you try to push away. Do you really believe God is good when circumstances feel overwhelmingly bad? Can you honestly say He is in control when everything around you feels chaotic, spiraling beyond your grasp? Do you hold on to His faithfulness when His promises seem delayed, perhaps even forgotten, like whispers lost in the wind? This season isn't about proving if you have faith. God isn't surprised by your fear or your moments of faltering. This testing is designed to strengthen the faith you do have, to make it robust and resilient. Think of the words penned by Peter in 1 Peter 1, 6-7. He tells us that trials of many kinds have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Like raw gold thrown into the crucible, heated intensely to burn away impurities, your faith is being refined in the fire of the wait. The wilderness isn't merely a place of hunger, it's a forge. The storm isn't just danger, it's the intense pressure needed for formation. Your soul, weary perhaps from the long journey through the valley, is being tempered like steel. Exposed to the intense heat of delayed hope and the cool, sharp blows of disappointment, it is becoming stronger, more resilient, less brittle. This process hurts. It feels like breaking before it feels like building. Yet, it is in this very refining fire that the truest reflection of Christ is being forged within you. Patience, perseverance, unbreakable hope, rooted not in circumstance, but in the character of God Himself. The weight isn't a sign of His absence, but evidence of His purposeful presence, shaping you for something far more precious than fleeting comfort. An enduring, tempered faith that reflects His glory. Lean into the heat. He is with you in the flame. The calendar pages blur, each sunrise feeling much like the last, marked not by progress, but by the persistent ache of absence. You sit in the quiet, the room holding the echo of spoken prayers, the earnest petitions sent heavenward with a hope that felt so certain then. Now, only silence answers. It's a silence that presses down, heavy and absolute. The air feels thick with the unspoken questions that begin to surface, insidious and sharp. Maybe you've asked God this too. The words whispered in the dark or cried out in moments of desperate solitude. Did I hear you correctly? Was that gentle whisper, that quiet nudge, truly from you? Or did my own hopeful heart invent it, crafting a comforting fiction in the face of hard reality? Was that promise even real? The one I clung to, the one I built my hope upon? Why are you silent now, Lord, when I need you most? When the way ahead is dark, when the storm is raging, when the oil in the lamp is running low? This is the raw, honest cry of the heart in prolonged waiting. It's the wilderness season where the usual signs of God's presence seem to vanish, leaving you exposed to the elements of doubt and despair. You've laid bare your deepest desires, the hidden hurts, the most urgent needs, the kind that feel life or death in their intensity, and still the heavens feel shut. Like a bolted door, like a well gone dry in parched land. The stillness isn't peaceful, it's deafening. It screams louder than any answer could, echoing your own fears back at you. This is the moment faith is stripped down to its core. It's not about the feeling of God's presence, the warmth of His Spirit, the goosebumps, or the quiet certainty that sometimes accompanies prayer. It's not about the tangible evidence of answers appearing, the sudden breakthrough, the door swinging open. No, this moment requires something far more fundamental, something far more challenging. It's about choosing to believe His character simply because He is God. It's the stubborn, gritty decision to trust the nature of the one who promises, even when the promise feels distant, dormant, or maybe even forgotten by the giver. You find yourself in the ancient company of souls who wrestled with the same silence. You can almost hear the psalmist's voice, weary, but still lifting the lament in Psalm 13. How long, Lord? Will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts, and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? These aren't polite, polished prayers. They are the guttural cries of a soul in anguish, feeling overlooked, forgotten, abandoned, and they are recorded for us, etched into the sacred text. Why? To show us that this wrestling, this questioning, this feeling of being left in the dark is not a sign of failed faith, but often the crucible where true, resilient faith is forged. It is okay to bring your desperate questions to God. It is okay to lay bare your deep pain, your confusion, your sense of being lost in the valley with no sign of the mountaintop. He can handle your honesty. He doesn't need you to filter your pain, to pretend you are strong when you feel weakest, to offer saccharine platitudes when your heart is breaking. He invites your authenticity. He knows the depth of your ache, the questions swirling in your mind, the fear gripping your heart. He isn't surprised by your doubt. He is simply waiting for you to bring it to him. The paradox of faith in the waiting is that sometimes the truest step of faith is not found in declaring unwavering belief, but in honestly admitting the struggle and bringing your broken hope to the one who is the source of all hope. Your questions don't push him away. Your vulnerable honesty draws you closer to his grace. Perhaps the silence is not his absence, but a different kind of presence, one that teaches you to listen in a new way, to see in the dark, to find strength not in the answer arriving, but in the character of the one who holds you in the waiting. Trusting God always doesn't mean understanding everything always. It means choosing to believe in His goodness, His wisdom, and His love, even when the story makes no sense from your limited perspective, even when the silence feels like a cosmic rejection. He is not asking for performance. He is inviting presence, your presence, just as you are, questions, pain, and all, meeting His enduring, unwavering presence in the quiet. This journey through the feeling of unanswered prayer is a stripping away, yes, but it is also an invitation to anchor your faith, not in the shifting sands of circumstance or feeling, but in the bedrock of who God is. He is faithful, even when you feel forgotten. He is good, even when your situation is bad. He is love, even when His face feels hidden. The call to renewed trust here is not a command to stop hurting or stop questioning, but an invitation to hurt and question in His presence, to pour out your lament, and then, perhaps with tears in your eyes and a trembling voice, declare, "Yet I will trust in you." This wilderness of waiting is where your faith learns to walk, not by sight, but by the quiet, persistent conviction that the one who promised is the one who is faithful, and His character is your truest ground for hope. The days stretch out like a desert road, endless and shimmering with the mirage of what you hope is coming. Inside, the storm rages, not the kind that shakes the house, but the silent tempest of agonizing waiting. Your mind churns with possibilities, fears twist like vines around your heart, and the impulse to do something, anything, to break the inertia is overwhelming. You've strived, you've pushed, you've tried to manipulate the variables, to force an outcome from the clenched fist of your will. But the waiting persists, a relentless teacher you never signed up for. And in the midst of this internal chaos, a voice quieter than the storm, but stronger than the wind, echoes from ancient pages. It's an invitation, not a command to cease activity, but a gentle beckoning to cease striving. Be still and know that I am God, the whisper from Psalm 46 verse 10 offers. Stillness here isn't the absence of movement. It's the active posture of releasing your grip. It is the deliberate choice to lay down the heavy burden of needing to control the timeline, to orchestrate the perfect outcome, or even to dictate the very feeling of this season. Imagine it, ceasing your own frantic paddling in the rapids of uncertainty. This is not passive resignation, surrendering because you're defeated. No, this is surrender from a place of power, the power to choose trust over turmoil. It's an active resting in His sovereignty, acknowledging that while you wait, He works. While you feel lost, He is found. Stillness is the space where your soul quiets down, not because the external noise has stopped, but because you have tuned your inner ear to perceive His presence and gentle guidance in the quiet moments, in the unexpected lulls, even in the very heart of the discomfort. This stillness becomes your refuge. It's not shelter from the storm of waiting, wishing it would pass faster or be less painful. It is finding shelter in the shelter of His wings. Psalm 91:4, right in the middle of it all. The paradox is real. You find your footing not by running, but by standing still. You gain strength not by striving harder, but by ceasing your efforts and resting in His. This sacred pause allows the churning waters of your soul to calm, revealing the steady, unwavering reflection of the one who is God, even in this. Can you carve out just one small moment today, right where you are, amidst the agonizing wait, to simply be with God, trusting Him, not because the waiting is easy, but because He is God, and that is enough reason to still your heart and know. It feels like a wilderness, doesn't it? This season you're walking through. The path is unclear, the landscape barren, and every direction looks the same. Endless, dry, waiting. You've been here longer than you expected, much longer. It was supposed to be a quick journey, a brief transit from here to the promised land you envisioned. But weeks have stretched into months, maybe even years. The destination feels impossibly distant, a shimmering mirage on a far horizon that never gets closer. You look back at where you started, a place of certainty or at least predictability, and it feels a lifetime away. Doubt whispers like the dry wind across parched earth. Has God forgotten you out here? Did you take a wrong turn somewhere? Are you destined to simply wander in circles? Remember another wilderness journey? A whole nation, millions strong, freed from bondage, but not yet in possession of their promise. The Israelites, their escape from Egypt to the land flowing with milk and honey, was a journey that by direct route could have taken mere weeks. Instead, they wandered for 40 long years. 40 years of dust, heat, hunger, thirst, and uncertainty. 40 years in a wilderness that became synonymous with waiting, testing, and the ache of a delayed promise. It was a season born not of God's forgetfulness, but of a people's fear and unbelief. Yet, even in their wandering, even when they doubted, grumbled, and turned away, God did not abandon them in the wilderness. He was there. His presence wasn't hidden or distant. It was tangible, visible, undeniable. By day, a towering pillar of cloud hovered over their camp, shielding them from the brutal sun, marking the way they should go. By night, that same pillar transformed into a column of fire, a beacon of light and warmth in the chilling darkness, assuring them they were not alone, not lost. Every single morning, 6 days a week, they woke to find manna on the ground, bread from heaven, perfectly sufficient for that day's need, a constant daily reminder of God's provision. When thirst became unbearable in the desolate landscape, Moses struck a rock, and water, life-giving water, gushed forth, enough for everyone. God's presence didn't remove them from the wilderness. It sustained them in it. He didn't just point them toward the promised land. He walked with them, guided them, fed them, and quenched their thirst on the way. The wilderness wasn't empty of God. It was filled with the evidence of His intimate care. It was a school of faith, where lessons about His faithfulness were etched into their collective memory, not in comfort, but in challenging, dependent moments. They learned, day by day, that the God who saved them was also the God who sustained them through the wait. Your wilderness of waiting is also marked by His presence. He hasn't left you to figure it out alone, to navigate the barren landscape by your own strength or dwindling hope. The delay is not proof of His absence. It is often the very ground where His presence becomes most keenly felt, most desperately needed, and most miraculously revealed. He is the cloud for you today, perhaps not visible smoke and vapor, but the clear signposts, the unexpected protection, the gentle redirection when you feel utterly lost. He is the fire for you tonight, the warmth of His comfort when anxiety chills your soul, the illumination of a scripture verse that suddenly makes sense, the unshakable peace that guards your heart in the deepest darkness. He is the manna for you this morning, the strength to face just this day, the sudden insight into a problem, the financial provision that arrives precisely when needed, the simple energy to put one foot in front of the other. He is the water from the rock for you, the surge of hope in a moment of despair, the breakthrough in understanding, the refreshing truth that sustains your spirit when everything else feels dry and impossible. You are not wandering aimlessly. You are walking with Him. Sometimes, finding His presence in the wilderness requires a shift in perspective. It requires you to stop staring at the distant, delayed promise and instead look down at the ground, right where you are standing. Look for the small mercies, the unexpected kindness from a stranger, the beauty of a sunrise you almost missed, the simple fact of waking up with breath in your lungs. Look for the unexpected provisions, the phone call that arrived at the perfect moment, the energy to do one hard thing, the quiet whisper of peace that settled over you when the storm raged within. These are the modern-day manna, the unexpected water, the gentle guidance of the cloud and fire. Your wilderness isn't a void devoid of God. It is often a sacred space specifically curated for you to discover the depth and breadth of His constant companionship. It is a place where reliance becomes real, where faith is forged not in comfort, but in dependence. The waiting is not empty. It is filled with opportunities to witness His faithfulness in ways you would never see in the land of plenty. He is walking this path with you, closer than you can imagine. Trust that the God who sustained a nation in the literal desert is more than capable of sustaining you in your spiritual wilderness. Look for Him. He is there. He is the cloud, the fire, the manna, the water for you today. And sometimes, the greatest abundance you find is not the arrival at the destination, but the discovery of His fullness in the empty space. You sit in the quiet, the echo of unanswered questions pressing in. The path forward feels obscured, like navigating a thick fog in a deep valley. You've offered your polished prayers, the ones that sound faithful and strong, but beneath them, a raw ache persists, confusion, disappointment, maybe even anger at the silence. It's the groan you stifle, the tear you hold back, the doubt that whispers in the dark. This is the place where faith feels thin, where the weight of suffering or the endless delay of a promised breakthrough threatens to buckle your knees. You wonder, is it okay to feel this broken? Does God even want to hear this messy cry? The ancient Psalms answer with a resounding yes. They are filled with the wild, untamed cries of hearts wrestling with God, laments that do not mask pain, but bring it into the open air of His presence. My God, why have you forsaken me? Echoes across centuries, a cry from the depths of perceived abandonment, yet still spoken to God. Psalm 22:1. I am worn out from my groaning. All night long I flood my bed with weeping. Psalm 6:6 is not a declaration of giving up, but an honest report laid before the one who sees and knows. These laments are not expressions of faithlessness. They are acts of radical honesty within faith. They are the sound of a soul grappling with the paradox of believing in a good, powerful God while experiencing the harsh realities of a fallen world. Lament is faith's way of wrestling with suffering, with unanswered questions, with agonizing delays, without letting go of the hand of God. It's the courageous decision to bring your sorrow, your confusion, your impatience, your raw pain, and lay it all at His feet. It's trusting, even when every feeling screams otherwise, that He is big enough to handle your most turbulent emotions, and that He actually hears the cry you fear is too ugly or too weak to utter. He doesn't ask you to paste on a smile or pretend you're okay when you're not. He invites you into the vulnerability of lament. He calls you to bring your authentic, hurting self into the light of His presence, just as you are. Do not silence the ache. Do not bury the pain under layers of forced composure. Bring it forth. Cry out to Him. This is not a sign of weakness. It is the brave act of a trusting heart declaring, even when I don't understand, even when it hurts, even when you feel far away, I will still speak to you. In the very act of lamenting, you are anchored to the one who can bear the weight of your pain. It is in these raw, honest cries that healing begins, not because the circumstances instantly change, but because your soul finds refuge and strength in the unfailing presence that welcomes your deepest anguish. You sit there, hands idle, watching the dust motes dance in the sunbeam slanting through the window. You've prayed, you've waited, you've done the hard work of surrender, but a whisper begins, insidious and low. Is this it? Is waiting just doing nothing? Am I supposed to just sit here while my life stands still, while opportunities pass like ships in the fog? The world rushes on, a river in flood, while you feel like a pebble stuck on the shore, waiting for a tide that seems reluctant to arrive. Fear tightens its grip. The fear that your inaction is laziness, not faith. The fear that God is waiting for you to do something, but you don't know what. The fear that precious time is slipping through your fingers in this season of stalled hope. But God's truth unfolds not in the frenzy of motion, but in the quiet power of alignment. Waiting on God is never idly doing nothing. It is, paradoxically, a posture of active trust. It's not the paralysis of inaction, but the focused energy of intention directed by faith. Think of the farmer who waits for rain. He doesn't just sit indoors. He prepares the soil. He mends the fences. He checks his tools. He cultivates the land he does have, trusting that when the rain comes, the ground will be ready to receive it. This is the heart of active waiting. It involves prayer, not just presenting wish lists, but prayer that deeply aligns your aching heart with His perfect, mysterious will. It is prayer that listens more than it speaks, seeking His perspective in the long quiet. It is studying His Word, not just for information, but to understand the unchanging character of the one in whom you are waiting, learning that He is faithful even when you see no movement, that He is working, even in the hidden places. And critically, it is obedience in the small, often seemingly insignificant things He has already given you to do. The daily duties, the overlooked tasks, the simple kindnesses, the sharpening of a skill you might not see the immediate use for. This season isn't a void to be endured, it's a field to be stewarded. It's pruning the garden you do have, tending the small patch of earth in front of you, even while you wait for the promised harvest in another unseen field. It is preparing the soil, sharpening the tools, learning the skills that God is refining in you now, because He knows you will need them for the not yet that is coming. He isn't asking you to build the entire city while you wait for the land. He's asking you to lay one stone, faithfully and well, on the path He has shown you today. What small, faithful step can you take in your current circumstances? That phone call you've delayed? That honest conversation? That task at work done with excellence? That moment of choosing gratitude over grumbling? That hour spent learning? That corner of your life brought into order? That honors God right now, even while you wait for the larger breakthrough you long for. Trust isn't just believing God will act, it's acting on what He has already given you, believing He is sovereign over both the waiting and the fulfillment. Let the small fidelities of today become the quiet strength that prepares you for the abundance of tomorrow. The silence hangs heavy, a veil draped over the empty space where your answered prayer should be. You look at the calendar, counting the days, maybe the months, since you first poured out your heart, pleading for breakthrough, for clarity, for the promise God whispered to your soul. Doubt whispers too, a faint, insidious hiss. Was it even heard? Did I misunderstand? Was I rejected? The waiting isn't just static. It feels like a test, a trial, a season of being overlooked or forgotten in the grand narrative of divine action. You see others receiving their breakthroughs, walking into open doors, and the contrast sharpens the feeling of being left behind, stuck in a seemingly unproductive holding pattern. It's a season that gnaws at patience, erodes confidence, and tempts the heart to believe that delay equals denial. The world rushes on, full of noise and motion, while you feel suspended, waiting for a sign, a shift, the arrival of what was promised. It's easy in this quiet wilderness to feel lost, to question the path, to wonder if the destination still exists. But what if this stillness, this delay, is not God withholding the promise, but God preparing you for it? What if the waiting is not downtime, but training time? Think of Joseph, betrayed and thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, then unjustly imprisoned. A cruel, unending delay from the dreams God had given him. Years ticked by in the grim confines of prison walls. Yet in that darkness, Joseph wasn't simply waiting. He was learning. He learned patience under suffering, faithfulness in isolation, and how to manage resources and people, rising from a simple slave to the trusted steward of Potiphar's house and then the prison warden. He was developing resilience, wisdom, and a deep dependence on God in circumstances stripped bare of human support. The prison wasn't just a cell, it was a classroom where God was forging the character necessary to rule a nation and save His family. The crushing weight of chains inadvertently prepared his shoulders to bear the weight of Egypt's destiny. Look at David, anointed king as a boy, yet spending years running for his life from a jealous Saul. The wilderness was his academy. Caves were his sanctuaries, sheepfolds his early command posts. He learned leadership not from a throne, but from hardship, leading a ragtag group of outcasts. He honed his skills as a warrior, a strategist, and most importantly, as a worshiper, pouring out his heart in psalms written from the depths of despair and triumph. He learned to trust God completely when every earthly security was stripped away. The loneliness of the wilderness didn't make him less of a king. It shaped him into a shepherd king, a man after God's own heart, prepared to lead God's people with compassion and courage forged in isolation. The chasing wasn't denial of the crown. It was the refining fire that prepared him to wear it with humility and strength. Consider the disciples after Jesus ascended. They were told to wait in Jerusalem, in the upper room, for the promised Holy Spirit. 10 days of waiting, perhaps filled with uncertainty, prayer, and nervous expectation. What were they doing? They were bonding, praying together, strengthening their unity and dependence on one another and on God. They were shedding their old ways of thinking, their desires for earthly thrones, and preparing their hearts to receive a power far beyond anything they had imagined. The waiting wasn't idleness. It was incubation, a season of spiritual deepening and alignment, making them ready to be filled with the explosive power that would turn the world upside down. Their confinement in that room wasn't the end of their mission. It was the intense spiritual preparation for its radical beginning. This season you are in, this period of waiting and uncertainty, is doing something in you. It is preparing you for the promise. What skills are you learning? Perhaps it is the skill of waiting gracefully, the quiet art of finding peace in the midst of unanswered questions. What character traits are being refined? Maybe it's patience being stretched, resilience being forged like steel, or faith deepening from a shallow belief to a bedrock certainty. Are you learning to distinguish God's voice more clearly in the quiet? Are you learning to surrender control, to trust His timing, even when it makes no logical sense? These are not trivial lessons. These are the foundational skills you will desperately need when the promise arrives, when the door finally swings open. The very pressures of the waiting are shaping you into the person capable of stewarding the blessing when it comes. It's a gentle paradox. You feel depleted, yet you are being filled. You feel stuck, yet you are moving towards readiness. View this waiting not as a penalty box, but as a training ground. It's not a sign that God has forgotten you. It's proof that He is meticulously preparing you. He is equipping you with the internal fortitude, the spiritual muscles, and the wisdom required to handle the weight and the wonder of the future He has for you. Don't waste this season wishing it away. Instead, lean into it. Ask God honestly and openly, what are you teaching me in this moment that I need for the future you have for me? Listen for His gentle guidance. Embrace the discomfort. Trust the process. The waiting isn't pointless. It is purposeful. It is God working deeply within you, building capacity, shaping your heart, ensuring that when the promise finally breaks through the horizon, you are not only ready to receive it, but you are prepared to steward it well. The storm is not the end. It is the forging of the vessel that will sail safely to the promised shore. The minutes stretch into hours, the hours into days, and the days fold one into another, a landscape of unchanging gray. You find yourself standing at the edge of what feels like an endless wilderness, your hopes like dry seeds scattered on parched ground. The prayer you prayed seems to hang in the air, unheard, or perhaps worse, politely ignored. Doubt, a persistent vine, begins to twist around your heart, whispering questions about God's promises, about His presence, about whether the future holds anything different than this stagnant present. It feels like being trapped between a red sea of impossibility and the pursuing army of your fears and circumstances. There is no visible path forward, no immediate deliverance, only the vast, intimidating water before you and the sound of thunder behind. But faith has a peculiar way of seeing. It carries a double lens, one looking back at the undeniable evidence of God's past faithfulness, the other peering forward into the absolute certainty of His future promises. Let your mind drift back, not just through your own life where God has intervened in surprising ways, but across the sweep of sacred history. Remember that moment at the Red Sea? Trapped, terrified, the people cried out. There was no strategy meeting, no phased exit plan. There was simply God's command and Moses' obedient faith, lifting a staff over impassable waters. And in an instant that defied all logic and nature, the sea parted, creating a dry highway where despair had seen only death. Breakthrough, massive and miraculous, arrived not when it was earned, but when it was desperately needed, in a way no one could have predicted. Think too of Jericho. Not a single siege engine, no clever military maneuver, just priests carrying an ark, people marching, and a trumpet blast. The impregnable walls, symbols of impossibility, didn't crumble under force, but under faith-filled obedience to a seemingly absurd command. The waiting was in the walking, circle after patient circle, day after day, before the explosive breakthrough came. Or fast forward to the darkest Friday, the silence of the tomb. Hope seemed extinguished, buried, but the story wasn't over. Sunday morning arrived, shattering death's dominion, ushering in the ultimate breakthrough, the resurrection that guarantees every promise God has ever made. God specializes in breakthrough at just the right moment, often in ways that dismantle our expectations and rewrite the rules of possibility. He doesn't work according to our timelines or our preferred methods. He works according to His perfect wisdom and boundless power. Perhaps you are in a season of extended waiting, walking circles around your personal Jericho, or standing by a shore that refuses to part. It feels endless, passive, perhaps even pointless, but Scripture offers a profound perspective on this space. Hebrews 10:36 says, "You need to persevere, so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised." Your perseverance in the waiting isn't a side plot. It is the actual path to the promise. The stillness is not stagnation. It can be preparation. The feeling of being stuck might just be God positioning you for the precise moment and nature of the breakthrough He has planned. Perseverance here isn't gritting your teeth and toughing it out alone. It is the active trust that keeps walking, keeps praying, keeps seeking to do God's will in the waiting. It is lighting the oil lamp not because you see the road ahead, but because you know the one who is the light. Hold on to hope, not because you can see the way through the wilderness or the shore on the other side, but because you know the one who holds the future in His hands. He is not limited by what you see or what you can do. The same God who was faithful to Abraham, calling a nation from a barren couple, the same God who was faithful to Joseph, raising him from a pit and prison to a palace, The same God who was faithful to David, leading him from a shepherd's field and a fugitive's cave to a king's throne, that same faithful God is utterly faithful to you. Your current chapter, even if it feels like waiting, like wrestling, like wilderness, is part of a larger story being written by the most trustworthy author. The breakthrough may not look like you expect. It might not be the thunderclap you anticipate, but a quiet whisper that shifts everything internally. It might not be the dramatic parting of waters, but the slow emergence of a spring in your desert. It might come through a relationship you didn't see, a simple obedience you almost overlooked, or a sudden insight that illuminates the path forward. Freedom, sometimes, arrives not when you break free from the waiting, but when you find a deep and settled peace within it. The greatest strength is often revealed not in our striving, but in trusting God precisely when we feel weakest. The most profound movement in your life might be happening in this season where you feel completely still, anchored only by the quiet conviction of God's promise. Your perseverance isn't wasted. It is shaping you, refining your trust, aligning your heart with His perfect timing. The breakthrough is coming. He is faithful. Trust Him with the when, the how, and the look of it all. You sit again in the quiet place by the window. The late afternoon light softens the room, casting long shadows. And maybe, just maybe, the waiting is still your reality. The silence you've known may still feel present, a companion in the space where your answered prayer longs to be. But look closer. Feel the air. Perhaps now it doesn't feel quite as empty as it did before. You've walked this path, tracing the footsteps of those who waited before you. You've seen that God has always worked in these seasons of quiet, in the fertile ground unseen, building roots deep within the soil of the soul. He shapes spirits in the wilderness, not to punish, but to prepare. He refines His people, making them ready for promises yet to come. Promises often far grander than they could have imagined from the edge of their longing. You are not forgotten in this space. Your story is not paused, gathering dust on a shelf of divine indifference. It is unfolding moment by moment, according to a timeline that is not just perfect, but divinely woven, stretching beyond the limits of your immediate vision, beyond the horizon you can see from your window. Your worth, the sacred value of your life, is not measured by the speed of your breakthroughs, not by the timeline you set, or the milestones the world expects you to hit. It is measured, wholly and completely, by your identity. You are a beloved child of God, chosen from before the foundations of the world, called with a purpose that resonates through eternity, and held securely, fiercely, tenderly in His hand. The God who began this good work in you, the work of transformation, of hope, of building a soul anchored in Him, He is utterly faithful to complete it. The Scripture whispers it like a gentle breeze. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Philippians 1:6. His timing, this rhythm of waiting and unfolding, is not merely a test of your patience, a cosmic game to see how long you can endure the silence. It is a profound invitation. An invitation to let go of the white-knuckled grip on the steering wheel of your life and rest more deeply in the unchanging character of the one driving. His goodness is unwavering. His wisdom is infinite. His love is an ocean with no shore. His faithfulness is the bedrock beneath all shifting sands. Even when you don't understand the when the clock makes no sense, when the delays seem illogical, when the path ahead is shrouded in mist, you must trust the who. Let your soul be anchored not in the swirling, shifting sands of circumstance, not in the frantic ticking clock of human expectation, but in the eternal, steadfast timing of your Father. He is nearer than your next breath. He sees you, every tear, every doubt, every quiet hope. He is working, weaving, moving, orchestrating all things, the seen and the unseen, the joy and the struggle, the waiting and the breakthrough, working it all together for your ultimate good and for His unfolding glory. Even in the silence you perceive, His presence sings over you, a lullaby of peace, a melody of promise that transcends the noise of the world and the clamor of your own heart. Trusting God always means trusting Him fiercely, beautifully, completely in the waiting. For it is in these sacred, hidden seasons, guided by His divine, perfect time, that He makes all things beautiful. Not just the outcome, but the very process of becoming. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Ecclesiastes 3:11. They didn't always see the end from the beginning. Those who waited, those who trusted, those who walked by faith and not by sight. But they knew the author, and they trusted Him, and that was enough.